Hello and welcome to the News at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, a threat of legal action over compliance with the Supreme Court ruling on biological sex. Women's rights campaigners hand the Scottish Government a deadline, saying single-sex toilets and changing facilities must be provided immediately. We've spoken to Sex Matters, the group behind the action. Also tonight, NHS Grampian make a fresh plea to women to help others conceive. And we'll hear from campaigners against fuel poverty as the Scottish Government says it will no longer offer its new winter fuel payment on a universal basis. All the sport too, of course. So Sheila, what have you got for us tonight?
We'll get reaction as Rangers, Hibs and Dundee United find out who they'll face in their European qualifiers.
And rare letters from Mary Queen of Scots have gone under the hammer. We'll find out how much they sold for. Hi, I'm Laura McKeever. Welcome to the News at 7. Women's rights campaigners have given the Scottish Government a deadline to comply with the UK Supreme Court's ruling on biological sex. In April, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that a woman is defined by biological sex under equalities law. But now the Sex Matters group says the government is delaying implementing new policies and guidance and has issued a letter warning of legal action in 14 days if they don't act. The Scottish Government said it accepted the Supreme Court judgment and is awaiting new guidance from the Equality and Human Rights Commission.
Well, I appreciate that people have concerns and they are quite rightly pressing the Scottish Government and indeed others to make sure that we are following what the Supreme Court has laid out. And that's why I want to give that reassurance that we accept the Supreme Court judgment and we're moving forward right across government at pace and consistently to ensure that if there are changes to be made, we're already working on those.
Well, earlier I spoke to Maya Forstater, who's the chief executive of the campaign group threatening the legal action, Sex Matters, and I asked her why they'd given the government this deadline.
Because the Supreme Court judgment was a model of clarity. It set out what the Equality Act says, which is that men are male and women are female, and where you have single-sex services, they should be provided on the basis of sex. And when we met the Scottish Government, they said to us that they were reviewing their policies, but they weren't going to change anything until the regulator, the Equality and Human Rights Commission, had finalised its new code of practice. And we think that's not good enough. The law is what the law is. And in fact, the Supreme Court says it's always been the law that there are two sexes and that single-sex services should be by sex. So there's really no excuse for waiting.
They did say they accepted the Supreme Court judgment. They also said, as you have just said, that they are awaiting this guidance from the Equality and Human Rights Commission. Does it not make sense to wait for that guidance so that policy guidelines and advice can be consistent?
No, because the responsibilities are really clear. They come from the law. The advice from the Equality and Human Rights Commission is quite useful for small businesses that don't necessarily have legal advice. But the Scottish Government is not that. And it's very clear what they should do, which is particularly for everyday services, things like toilets, changing rooms, showers, is just to make clear that where they have that woman sign on the door, that means female only. No men should come in, even men who identify as transgender, as non-binary, as trans women, because those spaces are there to protect the dignity and privacy of women.
So what should trans people do in the meantime then? Many of whom have said that they feel confused at the moment about the situation, they feel scared even.
There's nothing to be confused or scared about. What we've asked the Scottish Government to do is to put a statement on its website that says that they provide services based on biological sex, and wherever possible, they'll also provide a unisex alternative. And in almost all cases, they already have that provision. What they need is to be clear about the rules.
You've set a 14-day deadline on this. What happens if nothing has changed in 2 weeks' time?
Then we'll be talking to our lawyers and seeking permission to bring a judicial review, because we think that what they're doing is unlawful right now.
The Equality and Human Rights Commission has already published interim guidance. including saying that trans women should not be permitted to use women's facilities in places like hospitals, shops and restaurants. Do you not see that interim guidance already being followed? Is that an issue?
No, it's not being followed. Until the Scottish Government, until NHS Scotland, until bodies like NHS Fife have clear guidance on their own websites, in their own staff handbooks and in their own training, then it won't be followed. So that's their responsibility. They're employers and service providers. They need to follow the law as it is right now, and there's really no excuse for waiting.
OK, Maya Forstater, many thanks for joining us on the News at 7. Next tonight, egg donation is considered by many as an extraordinary, life-changing gift. But with around 100 couples said to be on waiting lists across Scotland for treatment, one health board is making a fresh plea for women to come forward to help others conceive. NHS Grampian says it's struggling to meet demand at its clinic in Aberdeen. Here's Rebecca Curran.
The Fertility Centre here in Aberdeen has been helping people on their journey to parenthood since the 1980s. It's one of 4 NHS facilities across the country, and demand for support has increased significantly in recent years. It's estimated now that 1 in 170 births in the UK involves donated eggs and/or sperm. Now, there's no cost to donating and there's no financial reward either. Women can find out if a child has been born as a result, and equally, a child conceived can later find out their donor's name and their contact details when they turn 18. Well, we've been speaking to one egg donor, Emma from Aberdeen, who's donated 3 times.
It's something that I'd wanted to do for quite a long time. I got the opportunity to do it, and for me it's just that it's a really nice thing that you can do to be able to help someone who's going through a really traumatic event in their life where they're having to go through IVF, and you can actually help someone get a family that they want. So for me it was a bit of a no-brainer that I really wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it as many times as I could.
Well, as the demand for egg donation across Scotland increases, the availability of donors just isn't keeping up, with the shortage particularly pronounced among different ethnic backgrounds. Now NHS Grampian is urging women under the age of 35 across the north of Scotland to come forward and consider giving others the gift of life. Rebecca Curran, reporting Scotland, Aberdeen.
Let's get a roundup now of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland. Police investigating a gangland feud across Edinburgh and Glasgow have arrested 3 more men. Officers also recovered a car and a firearm which they believe were used in recent incidents. MSPs have voted unanimously in favour of new powers aimed at encouraging greater use of Gaelic and Scots. The Scottish Languages Bill will strengthen parents' rights to ask for a Gaelic school in their area. And Stagecoach is to end most of its bus services in Dumfries and Galloway, saying they are no longer commercially viable. It'll drop all but 2 of its services in the region. And for more on these stories and all the rest of it, you can scan the QR code. It's there for you on the screen now. It'll take you to the BBC Scotland News app, where there's more for you, including how South Ayrshire and Western Isles councils have both rethought their tourist tax plans. Now, the Scottish Government won't offer its new winter fuel payment for pensioners on a universal basis. It's announced it will seek to recover funds through the tax system from pensioners earning more than £35,000 instead, matching the system announced by the UK Government. Social Justice Secretary Shirley-Anne Somerville said those receiving the payment in Scotland would be better off than their counterparts in the rest of the UK. Earlier, I spoke to Kate Cunningham from Energy Action Scotland, and I asked her what her thoughts were on the announcement.
Well, all help and support obviously is to be welcomed, but to be honest, you know, this benefit has been reintroduced. It should be looked at again. It's 20 years old. It hasn't gone up for 20 years, where energy prices, as we know, are much, much higher. And while, you know, we welcome that it has a threshold that people earning over £35,000 a year won't be receiving it, we should still be targeting more help at those most in need. So we either need to weight benefit entitlements towards those people, or we need a proper social tariff or a deeply discounted energy system that allows their energy to be more affordable for them.
OK, so do you think it was inevitable almost that the universality of this particular benefit wasn't sustainable then, that people who can afford perhaps to absorb it should?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know, we do have many pensioners who are, you know, who are in desperate need of support, but we also have many older households who are very wealthy and have, you know, a more than adequate income, and they don't need this. So, you know, it's important that we're not giving it to people who don't need it, who are, you know, who are perhaps doing really lovely things like donating it to charity, but nonetheless, that money should actually be going where it is really needed to protect people's health and well-being.
So do you think this £35,000 a year is a realistic cap level then, limit to put on this?
Well, it's the same as the cap that Westminster has chosen, so I suppose it demonstrates some sort of average, and certainly, you know, £35,000 a year doesn't buy what it used to buy. But, you know, energy costs are still incredibly high for households, and particularly for those households with older people where the need for thermal comfort is higher, where we need to protect those people's health and well-being, keep them out of hospital, keep them well, keep them in their homes, and we do that by keeping them warm.
You've talked about needing to reach those people that are really struggling. So what do you hope does happen now for those who will be receiving this benefit now in some form?
I hope that additional support is targeted at them. I hope that it's well targeted to make sure that it's those most in need that are receiving it. And I also hope that we really are going to move forward in some demonstrable way to make sure that a social tariff or some sort of energy discount to make energy affordable for those most in need is something that we can bring about in a long-term and sustainable way.
And when you're considering the future of the winter fuel payment, do you think it would be more helpful to peg it, for example, to the current energy price to make it some kind of percentage?
Yes, I think we certainly have to have a nod to the fact that energy not only is, you know, it remains incredibly expensive, it's not showing any sign of going down in the near future. You know, this is a very volatile time globally, and actually we don't know, we can't say, well, it'll only be like this for another 6 months. It's been like this for a number of years, and it's showing every sign of remaining as high as this. So, you know, we need to make sure that we're giving people support at a level that's actually helping them.
OK. Kate, many thanks for joining us on the News at 7.
Thank you.
You are watching the News at 7. Thanks for being with us. Still to come. Letters signed by Mary Queen of Scots and her husband Lord Darnley fetched thousands at auction. We'll find out what makes them so sought after.
Temperatures really on the rise for the end of the week and into the weekend, but will it be a heat wave? Find out later in the programme.
Now, public health doctors say they're concerned about a drop in the number of young people having a cancer-preventing jab. The HPV vaccine, which is offered to school pupils aged 12 and 13, helps prevent against the spread of viruses that can lead to cervical and other cancers. But experts say lower uptake in deprived areas could leave communities unprotected. Here are the thoughts of some pupils at Castlebrae High School at Craigmillar in Edinburgh.
It did hurt and it was sore and my arm felt really dead, but it's probably better to get it than not get it. It's like, a bit hurts for a few seconds, but and then after it's okay.
I don't want to get it, but I also don't want to get the virus.
It's your shoulder, okay? Brilliant, here we go. Well done. We're all done.
What?
I know, it's done. Amazing.
I thought it was going to be worse, but it's already over.
Yeah.
I feel better I got it done because at least I'll have not the risk of getting HPV.
Well, Dr Claire Cameron is a consultant at Health Protection Scotland and Public Health and joins us now. Hello, thank you for coming in. Welcome to you. What do you think is behind this decline then in uptake?
Well, we know that uptake for HPV vaccine, it has been declining for a number of years now, and it certainly didn't recover after the pandemic. We're not entirely sure about all the reasons, but we're doing everything we can to increase vaccine confidence.
And we're hearing it's affecting certain communities more than others. Do you think there's also an element perhaps of misinformation going around about this?
Well, it's definitely affecting some communities more than others. We know that uptake among boys is 5% less than girls. And for young people living in our most deprived communities, it's 20% less. So we're really concerned that not everybody in the community is being protected the same.
What would your message be now to a young person listening, their carers, others around them, to reinforce why this is important, what this vaccine does?
So HPV vaccine prevents cancer. It saves life. So if you are invited for this vaccine, please take up the offer. If you have questions, that's fine. We have vaccination teams up and down the country who would be delighted to be able to help you, and there's lots of information on NHS Inform as well.
And what do we know so far since its introduction about the impact it's already had?
So we know that for young women who were vaccinated aged 12 or 13 towards the beginning of the programme, there have been no cases of cervical cancer in those young women at all. So this is a disease we can actually eliminate, but we want that to be for everybody all across the communities across the country.
So it's hugely important to get that message out there. How do you think the best way to do that is, especially because we're talking about even pre-teens here, aren't we? We're talking about, you know, children who are not old. What do you think the most effective way to get that message over is?
Yes, so we're talking about young people in first year at secondary school. And what we're doing is we're working really hard to get the best information we can for people to feel confident about those vaccine decisions, for young people to feel confident, and for their adults, their parents and their carers to feel confident, and to have that information in a range of formats that work for everybody.
And to have this vaccine available now, you know, making a difference seems such an astonishing thing. Are you hopeful that you can, you know, get these numbers back up to where they were pre-COVID?
We're certainly doing everything we can to vaccinate as many people as possible. It's possible through combination of vaccination, screening, early treatment for us to eliminate cervical cancer and potentially other HPV-caused cancers as well. And we want to do everything we can to get uptake rates higher.
Okay. Dr. Cameron, thank you so much. Really good to hear from you tonight. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Still to come, weather with Chris. Could a heat wave be on the way? And we'll also hear about the auctioning off of rare letters from Mary Queen of Scots. First though, time to get the sport with Sheila. Lots of European chat tonight, Sheila.
There sure is. Hello there. The road to European group stage football is now in sight for Rangers, Hibernian and Dundee United, who now know the teams standing in their way in the opening rounds. Rangers will begin in the Champions League second qualifying round with a challenging tie against Greek side Panathinaikos, the highest ranked of their possible opponents. The first leg at Ibrox on the 22nd or 23rd of July will mark Rangers' new head coach Russell Martin's first competitive game in charge, with the return leg in Greece the following week. Hibs' return to European football starts with a trip to Denmark on the 24th of July to face Danish Superliga runners-up FC Midtjylland in the Europa League second qualifying round. And on the very same evening, Dundee United will travel to Luxembourg to face Unistrazen and get their Conference League qualifying campaign underway. Well, earlier I spoke to former Rangers and Hibernian midfielder Kevin Thompson and started by asking him just how tough a test Panathinaikos will pose Rangers in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, it's obviously a difficult draw. I think at that level you expect obviously top opposition. It'll be one that they fancy, obviously. It'll be interesting to see how the recruitment goes in the next few weeks, obviously under a new manager. I think that'll be key to any sort of success moving forward, what players they can get in through the door.
Yeah, he's really got to hit the ground running, doesn't he? His first competitive game, and it's a big one.
Listen, Russell will know that. He's played there, he's felt the pressure, he understands the demands, the expectations, etc. I think the biggest thing for him and his staff, and obviously the players that do come through the door, or it's imperative they get off to a good start. And what better way trying to have a fight again to Champions League? It would give the whole place a boost. It would give him a great start, and hopefully that would be a catalyst for them moving forward to some sort of success.
A quick look at the other two draws today then. Hibs have got Midtjylland. How do you think they'll fare there?
I think that's a difficult one, but I think with the success that Hibs have had under Dave, and right kick in the teeth obviously at the end of the season when Aberdeen had obviously won the cup final, which was probably one that they didn't expect, but they'll have had two plans, no doubt. They'll have had plans to bring in certain players. They seem to be in the market to strengthen all the time. So I think if they get the right ones in and they can build on the success that they had last year, I'm sure that's a tie that they'll really fancy.
Dundee United heading to Luxembourg. On paper, you know, people will probably think winners of Luxembourg, but we know what can happen in Luxembourg, don't we?
Well, it's I just think at this level, and I'm sure Dundee United will certainly be one that they'll they'll think that they should get through. But as you mentioned, I don't think there should be any underestimating any opposition when you play in European ties. So they'll be up for it. They'll see it as a good opportunity, and hopefully, for a Scottish perspective, these teams can do well.
Yeah, big games to look forward to. Now, new Motherwell manager Jens Bertel Askau says he wants to see dynamic and intense football as he sets his sights on a top 6 finish in the Premiership. The 42-year-old, who was most recently assistant manager at FC Copenhagen, was officially unveiled at Fir Park today after Michael Wimmer's departure last month. The Dane had a long playing career, including a spell alongside Rangers boss Russell Martin at Norwich, and says he expects an electric atmosphere inside the club.
It's always going to be intense for the first 6 months because everything is from scratch. You know, they need to get to know me and my ideas, the way I work. And so everyone is on their toes even more, which is, you know, it makes the environment and the everyday quite electric in the beginning, but it's also very energy consuming and energy giving at the same time. So a lot of interesting and very exciting challenges.
And finally to rugby, and Andy Farrell has named his British and Irish Lions side to face Argentina in Dublin on Friday night. And there are a few familiar faces in the lineup. It won't come as much of a surprise that Edinburgh's Duhan van der Merwe has been named in the starting 15. And so too has Glasgow Warriors' Sione Tuipulotu, who will make his Lions debut on Friday in his first international match since November, after missing the Six Nations through injury. 2 Scots are also named on the bench. Edinburgh prop Pierre Schumann and Warriors lock Scott Cummings. We'll be hoping to see some action in the Aviva Stadium. And there's more rugby news on the BBC Sports Scotland website as we speak to SRU Chief Executive Alex Williamson about the Scotland women's team's contract situation. Yes, lots to look forward to this summer. There's not been much of a break, has there?
No, there really hasn't. Have you got your passport ready?
Yes.
To get to
or
Europe?
where? I don't know.
Somewhere in Europe, Sheila.
Yes, it will be.
Thanks so much. Right, a wee history lesson now. Letters signed by Mary Queen of Scots were among part of a collection from a Highland castle that went under the hammer in Edinburgh today. They feature in the extensive library and archive of Kilrock Castle near Croy. Earlier, I spoke to Cathy Tate, who's head of rare books, manuscripts and photos at the auctioneers Lion and Turnbull.
The whole archive is from Kilrock Castle near Nairn in the Highlands. The particular letters, the Mary Queen of Scots letters, there are 5 of them in total. 4 of them are co-signed by Henry Darnley, Mary Queen of Scots' husband, well, short-lived husband, and they are mainly kind of instructions to the Lairds of Kilrock, the Roses, about how to maintain peace in Inverness and in the Highlands, particularly regarding the keepership of Inverness Castle.
How significant are they then, and what do they tell us as well about the relationship between Mary Queen of Scots and her husband?
Well, they're unusual in that Mary Queen of Scots and Henry Darnley weren't really married for very long, and during their marriage they fell out quite quickly. So they're really, the fact that they're signed by both of them is significant because this must have occurred within a very kind of short period of harmony during their marriage. So it does show that there was a time when, in many ways, they were both acting almost as co-monarchs of Scotland, and Mary was happy for Darnley to sign along with her, almost in capacity as king.
And what kind of condition are they in? And have they sparked much interest?
They've been kept really beautifully. The Roses of Kilrock, when they were maintaining their archives, evidently really treasured their family history and kept all these letters, very safe. And they have sparked a lot of interest. We've sold them all very well, and we're very happy with the results. And people have been curious to see them.
Yeah, who ends up buying something like this? What might the buyer be like?
There'll be a mixture. Private collectors who have a real passion for manuscripts and probably for Scottish history as well. And they will have their own collections stored in very, very good archival conditions. And then there will be institutions mainly who will also be interested in buying.
So how much did they end up going for?
So the one that sold for the highest amount was £15,120, including our buyer's premium, and they ranged, you know, just some of them just below that. So, you know, from around kind of the £10,000 mark, I would say.
Exciting then. Do we know where they might be going then, and if there's something that the public will get to see at some point if they wanted?
I mean, that would be lovely. I personally don't know at the moment. This information hasn't kind of fed through to me yet, but you know, that would be very nice.
Kathy, lovely to talk to you. I'll let you go because I know it's busy for you. Really grateful for your time.
Thank you so much.
And in the same sale in Edinburgh today, original sketches by the children's author Roald Dahl for his memoir also sold for nearly £24,000. OK, weather time now. Christopher is here with some grey skies, but I feel like something is watching us. Yes. And it is not that dog.
Quite a blue jellyfish.
It looks like an eye.
The beach in Portobello. Weather watchers said there was quite a number of them on the beach, actually. But you'll notice rather cloudy skies there. A lot more sunshine to come in the next few days.
Indeed.
Increasing heat as well. Will it be a heat wave? I will answer. But first, a couple more pictures. Have a look at these over here. A lovely picture there from near to Aviemore, Lochmorlich. But again, cloudy conditions. Same too across the borders. But as I said to Laura, there is some sunshine and heat on the way. Let's take a look. Actually, the peak of the heat will be on Friday and Saturday. We're dragging in warm continental air from Europe, and that will send temperatures really quite high indeed. But first thing tomorrow, it's still quite cloudy. It's been quite cloudy today, hasn't it? And that cloud is still with us. It's a warm front. You can see it stretched right across the country there. It'll work its way northwards through the day tomorrow. So some morning sunshine, the far north, the northeast and the Northern Isles, but expect the cloud to move in through the course of the day. Conversely, through much of central and southern Scotland, after that cloudy start, the sunshine moves in, pushing up from the south, with it some warm southerly air. So temperatures a good bit higher than today, certainly through the central lowlands in the south, mid-20s, maybe 25 degrees in Glasgow. That's important. I'll explain later. So looking ahead now towards Friday, and lots of strong June sunshine around, and temperatures responding with those warm southerly winds, 26, maybe 27 degrees. 1 or 2 light showers in the west, largely light winds. And then after that warm, if not very warm day on Friday, uncomfortably warm overnight on Friday night. At their lowest for some, temperatures around 16 degrees, but for a good part of the night it will be warmer than that. And then on Saturday, we still have that warm air with us, so mid-20s temperatures and the chance of some heavy showers in the west as well. However, really, beyond Saturday, temperatures coming back down again with a fresher feel, low pressure taking over, a westerly wind feeding in those cooler conditions. So certainly a warm, if not hot spell on the way. But is it a heat wave? Well, actually, we need 3 days of 25 degrees or more for it to be actually officially a heat wave. And really, for many of us, it won't meet that. It will be hot at times, but perhaps Glasgow is what we're watching the most. Tomorrow, 24, perhaps 25 degrees. If we get that, followed by 27 and 25, heat wave territory. But for many, at least, a couple of very warm days indeed. That's the forecast.
Indeed. Muggy. Muggy's the word, isn't it? Hot nights. Christopher, thank you. And thank you for being with us tonight. Lovely to have you. And we are back tomorrow night at 7. From all of us here, though, for now, good night.